Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for the Q&A, so let's go ahead and get this started. All right, first question. In your supplement video, you mentioned melatonin is the most anabolic over-the-counter supplement. Can you tell us more, please? Makes you sleep. That's it. That's what makes it so anabolic. What are the most anabolic things you can possibly get that isn't an actual drug of some type? Food and sleep. Okay, food and sleep. Now I don't count just normal food and calories to be true supplements, right? They're not. So if it has a significant amount of calories, it really isn't a supplement, it's just food. It might be a processed junk food, but it's just food. Okay, so supplements. Melatonin, it helps you sleep. And it's not just low quality sleep, it improves sleep quality. Also impacts hormone production and stuff while we're sleeping. Right? That is anabolic. A lot of you guys out there who don't get enough sleep, if you got simply 1 hour more sleep, your gains would possibly double. Like for a lot of you guys who are like, oh man, I only sleep 6 or 7 hours. Okay, you guys right there. If you got an extra hour of quality sleep every night, you would probably gain double. Year round, you would be gaining twice the gains that you're gaining right now. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's very anabolic. Then on top of that, even if you're getting adequate sleep, a little more high quality sleep still might speed up recovery. If we speed up recovery, we can train a little more. Okay? And then we grow more. It helps you sleep. That's a big deal. All right, next question. What is your new power rack? I'm in the market for a new rack next Black Friday. I wouldn't necessarily go with the rack I have. If you're starting from scratch, I would get one of the more open feet one. In other words, if you look at my rack, you see that I have the feet that are on the floor. Like it's got a whole rail on the floor, and then the uprights bolt to that. Okay? They bolt to that. You don't have open footing for you to put your feet in to get wider squats and sumo deadlifts and stuff like that. Okay. You also don't have as much variation for band pegs as you would have on the other types. So what you need to be looking into is more the open foot ones. The reason that I got the one that I have is because I already invested quite a bit, whatever it was, $800, $700, a couple years ago, on a half rack. I got the half rack because at the time I did not live in this condo alone. I lived with an ex of mine who used 3/4 of the space up. Okay, she had the lion's share of the space here for her own projects and stuff. I didn't have as much space. Now, I have a whole 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condo completely of my own. I don't have to make space for anyone else. Therefore, space isn't really limited. I can kind of do whatever I want with my training. And so I upgraded that rack. If I were to just start over, I would buy a different rack with the open base. That's what I'd recommend. So this is an upgrade. It's essentially for those half racks. Rogue sells upgrade kits. You know, and I think with shipping it was like $450 or whatever. But for about $1,000 plus shipping, you can actually get the open base racks. And I've had some people say, well, Jason, I was going to get the half rack. Why did you get a full rack? Well, because I have the space for it. There's no reason to get the half rack, the squat racks like that. Okay, there's no actual reason to do that other than space limitations. And so if you don't have those limitations, go ahead and get a larger sized rack, right? Get a full size rack. It doesn't have to be the big full gym size, but you can get a full size rack. So you can do all your stuff in it. You can do different pen work easier to set up different bands. You can do isometric work. You have a lot more options in addition to just being more secure overall. And I'm not saying that the smaller racks can't be secure. They certainly can. Mine was. You guys have seen me miss squats well up into the 500s in it. And take it safely. But from an overall support and efficiency and safety perspective, the bigger rack is usually a little bit better. And you have more options with those. They don't cost that much more. Okay? So getting a full-size rack is actually beneficial for you. It's what you want to do unless you have space limitations, like I did at the time that I started that one. But it's also the case of not wanting to throw away that money and investment already put into that rack, trying to go through the trouble of selling that rack, dealing with whatever nonsense is involved with trying to sell something like that. That's a lot of what we have to think about there. Like it'd be a pain in the ass for me right now to unload that. It'd be a pain in the butt. It involved me putting up a Craigslist, then my phone number getting out to trolls, because invariably it would be seen quick. That's just been my life experience, and it wouldn't have been worth it. So in that case, it's better for me to just take the equipment I had and upgrade it. And they sell those kits for that purpose, right? Because I think a lot of people do that. They get a rack like that due to space limits. They want to upgrade it. They don't want to get rid of what they have, and so they make the kits because it's made out of the same basic parts, right? 50% of the full rack is already included in those half racks, the squat racks. But if you're going to start completely from scratch, it makes sense to get the more open-based one. You have a little bit more versatility with it because you don't have feet that run along the entire bottom. It's open. You have room to put your feet through there because we want to be able to do stuff wider if possible. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, next question. To help my squat depth, would you recommend raising my heels by standing on plates? Nope. I don't recommend people ever do that for any reason ever. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. And I know that might rub some people's fur the wrong way. I have people I know, or people on at least my friends list and stuff, and trainers and other people who actually do that. I'm not a fan of it. I don't think it serves a benefit. All you're doing when you start doing that is you're trying to make your squats more quad dominant. What are we trying to do with our squatting usually? We are trying to build as much muscle as possible. We're trying to use as much muscle as possible. And we're trying to get really strong and lift the most weight on a squat. Okay, if your goal is to just get better at sports and stuff, obviously you want to involve as many muscles as possible. Okay, we need to be using more hip. All you're doing by standing on plates is trying to remove some of the posterior chain to make it more quad dominant. Same thing when you're talking about hitting depth. Why aren't you hitting depth? What's going on with hitting depth? You think standing on plates is going to fully fix your depth issue? No, you're just having a dangerous crutch that puts you at a higher risk. You're stepping out with a weight on your back, trying to step on plates, all this stuff, and that's fine. I understand it's fairly low risk, but it's adding risk without really a good reason other than like, well, I'm struggling to hit depth. Okay, well, in what situation is your depth going to be tested where you're going to be allowed to step on those plates later? Okay, why are you trying to hit depth? What is depth for? It's for competition. Okay, it's either for execution of other movements or it's for competition. If you're not going to compete in powerlifting, you're not going to compete in strength lifting. Is hitting exact depth particularly important? I'd say no, but you also need to figure out why you're not hitting depth. There's something that needs to be adjusted with your form big time. You need to adjust your form if you can't hit depth. I get it, we can't hit depth with a super heavy weight because it's too heavy. Okay, fair enough. Take some weight off the bar and hit depth, okay? If you need to practice that. While the other situations, people are like, well, I have to squat really deep for whatever because I needed to carry over to this Olympic lift. You're not going to be able to perform that Olympic lift while standing on plates. So what good is it? And in other words, if you have to stand on plates with the stance you're using, do you think that you're going to be able to do a full clean on the plates? Now I want you to think about that. What are the odds that you're going to do a full clean and jump and re-land perfectly on those plates with the heels elevated so you can drop into that full squat? What are the odds that you're going to get hurt doing this? So it's not a solution for that either. So the only two reasons why which you're overly concerned with the depth, the plates are not going to be usable anyways. Figure out what's going on with your form. Figure out why you can't squat to depth and fix it. Don't rely on crutches like this. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 2.